When do you like to tune in to give yourself some leeway? Do you like to listen while you make your morning cup of coffee? While you're driving to work? Maybe when you head out for a walk? Or do you like to listen to me as you wind down after a long day's work? Seriously, I'm really curious now. I would really like to hear your feedback on this. I am seriously getting curious about this. You can reach out to me on Instagram at eugene.leeway. Email me, eugene@leeway.ie, or you can book in a call if you want to have a chat with me at giveyourselfsomeleeway.com. I am really curious, and I don't know why I started off this episode on such a mini tangent, but welcome to episode 36 of Give Yourself Some Leeway with me, your host, Eugene Lee. Today, I want to share with you a conversation that I had with Barry Cryan of domorebetter.ie. And Barry shares his personal experience with stress, anxiety, and chronic fatigue while he was working, and how that led him on a journey of learning more about productivity and how to prioritize his time to get the most out of his day, and how he's now helping others get super productive with their time and prioritize what is most important to them. So I really hope you enjoy today's episode with Barry Cryan. All right, Barry, it's great to have you on the show. And one thing that I always like to start with coaches especially, is that we all tend to follow a similar pattern, that we tend to hit a rock bottom or a turning point. And it's from this that we start a journey of self-recovery, growth and development. And somewhere along that journey, we want to serve others. And we get this spark, this vision that brings us into coaching. So what was that like for you?
I suppose I'm going back probably about 10 years ago now. And, I was, out of college, like I was working on my first probably proper job, like out of college and full of enthusiasm, kind of saying yes to everything, wanting to kind of make an impression, wanting to kind of do a good job and being seen as somebody that does a good job. And I was probably about maybe 3 years into that role. First role out of college, as I say, and it kind of started to kind of develop kind of flu-like symptoms. Started as maybe a cold, a flu, and just kind of stayed with me. Like, it was a strange one. Like, I kind of rested up for a few days, kind of got going again, and actually it kind of snowballed kind of through the weeks and months and kind of stayed with me and started to get worse. And I started maybe to develop other symptoms. I got to a point where my memory started to deteriorate quite badly. Couldn't even remember, like, I'd be halfway through a conversation, like with somebody at work, and I wouldn't literally remember what we were talking about at the start of the conversation. It was embarrassing. And like, it'd be the same at home as well. Like, could be having a conversation with someone at home and like, I literally would not even remember what we had started talking about. So I was trying to fudge people off, fob people off and stuff like that. And like, talk about productivity and all this kind of stuff. But like, I was probably at that point, like, getting about one day's work done in every five, like, and like, performance was terrible. But the problem was, I suppose, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Well, my performance was bad. I wasn't doing my job. Like, I still had to pay my mortgage, family to support. Like, I had was going around the country trying to find exactly what was wrong with me. Like, I remember sitting down with one particular consultant, and he asked me a few things before I came to him, and I wrote them out, and I had a list of over 25 different symptoms. Like, some doctors I was going to and stuff, and they were probably thinking to themselves, like, this guy's making it up, or it's in his head or something like this. And like probably the worst symptoms really was the fatigue, really bad chronic fatigue, and brain fog, and like, short-term memory, like, was close to zero. Shocking. Like, and it was kind of it got to a point where, like, I wasn't really functioning properly at all. I was trying to get by. Like, I used to have numerous mini naps during the day just to try and get through the day. When I get home again from the work, it'd be the same thing. It'd be straight to bed, and to bed for half an hour, 40 minutes to try and recover to get me through the next couple hours. And that was constant, day in, day out. Like I was going down a journey of kind of, doctors, consultants, alternative treatments, and I couldn't really find what actually was happening, But I knew I just had to turn it around because I've seen people that actually stopped working to try and recover or maybe get better or whatever, and they never actually came back. And that's what I was worried about. I was worried that I would stop and then actually wouldn't keep going. So I tried to kind of muddle through as best I could while I was trying to kind of continue to seek answers. I actually came across a newspaper article of a woman that kind of looked like she had similar symptoms to me. So I looked her up and I was managed to get in contact, and lo and behold, she was actually getting treatment in a specialist centre for Lyme disease in the Czech Republic. And she sent me back a blood test that it's kind of in Ireland. It's funny that they're 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 not really they don't have really very many specialists in Lyme disease in Ireland, and the test for it in Ireland is very, very inaccurate. Unless you get within a small window of getting Lyme disease, unless you're tested within like a couple of weeks of that, either a couple of weeks either side, you lose the like 95+% of the accuracy of the test. So while I was tested first, I was negative. And it was, long story short, got the blood test, tested positive, ended up going back there for a month of treatment, and over a period of years started to recover and get better. Now it took a couple of years, but I suppose, long story short, this is the start of my journey. What I realized during that time when I was sick is that I needed to do something different. Like the way I was working, even if I never got sick, it wasn't really sustainable. Like, people like with Lyme disease and other things, like it's a kind of an autoimmune, it affects your immune system. It's an autoimmune type of disease, and it can still lie dormant. It's where you get bit by a tick and it stays in the system. Some people develop a rash and get sick immediately. Some people, they never get sick from it. But what happened with me is I probably got bit with one years and years ago. It lay dormant in the system, and just the solid stress and the pressure and the way I worked triggered it and led to that autoimmune response, which led to all those symptoms that we talked about there. And it was all because of the way I worked. And when I started during that time when I was sick, I suppose, started thinking about this stuff, I knew there had to be a better way, because really ultimately out there right now, we see people like that work and do this stuff almost effortlessly. People that run multi-billion-dollar companies and still find time, like Richard Branson's example I always give. He runs multi-billion-dollar companies, and he's kite surfing, he's parasailing, he's taking flights to space. He's like he has the balance, like, and some people might say, oh, that's because he can afford to employ this person or that person, or massive management teams. But at the end of the day, these people, the people that do it best, they use specific systems to help them do it. And I knew there was a better way, so I started researching. I went around a big rabbit hole of books, YouTube, kind of training courses, and it kind of snowballed from there, really, into kind of seminars, workshops, into kind of what I'm doing now, masterminds. I'm into and I'm still learning, still growing, and I suppose what I done was that kind of low point where I realized that I was serving nobody. I wasn't serving myself. I wasn't serving my family. I wasn't serving the people I was working for. Really, the I had two options. Like, one was to ultimately maybe lose my job or walk away myself to try and continue my recovery, or number two was to try and find a better way. And I actually got a Kindle, I think, that Christmas beforehand. So I started going down this big rabbit hole of the Kindle. And what I realized really was there was a better way, Eugene. There is a better way of working. And when I talked about getting one day's work done in 5, because of what I learned during that journey, I was actually able to reverse the tables, and I was getting 5 days work done in one, as opposed to vice versa. And I kind of thought to myself, there's something in this. Like I often see the example of, when we go to school and college, we're trained within an inch of our life, like on, this, that, and the other, everything, like. But nobody, even when we went to the workplace, we're trained on SOPs, all this sort of stuff. Nobody actually shows you how to do your job efficiently, that doesn't have a knock-on impact on your family, on your health, on your stress, on your performance. How do you perform efficiently at work? And how do you optimize your productivity to do that in the most efficient way so you can perform and, be it, you're a 9 to 5 professional or you're running your own business, you can extract the maximum from the hours you've put in. And when I looked around the office that time, like everybody was doing something different. Even the best performers, even management and everything else, some of them are using sticky notes, some of them are using scraps of paper, notebooks, and like everyone was doing something different. But there was no proper, efficient way of working where people like were sat down and shown like there is a better way, and this is what you need to do. A bit like what we do in school and when we're trained on SOPs and all the other stuff. Like there is a better way, and I suppose this is what started me on this journey to make sure that other people don't have to go through what I got through. So I learned an awful lot from the journey I went on, and I don't want other people to have to spend 10 years going on that journey and hitting those low points to end up where I am now. Like, I often say, you read a book, you take a course, or you talk to somebody, you can take 20, 30, 50 years of experience and condense it down to days, weeks, or months, like 50, 40, 50 years. And that's what I want to do for people, really, is to condense my learning. And like, I haven't, reinvented the wheel. I've taken what the best in the world do. I've refined it. I've modeled it. I've optimized it. I've battle tested it myself. And now I basically help other people out there to basically, in a nutshell, work in a state of high performance productivity so that they can achieve their goals, their dreams, without costing their health, their family, or even their business.
Yeah, that's really good, Barry. I think one thing that you did really touch on very well there was that stress and burnout affects your physical health as well. That, as you
Yeah,
said, Lyme disease is an autoimmune condition, and it could have been lying dormant for years unknowingly. And it's
yeah,
just when you got to a point where your stress probably brought on a state uh, of suppressed immunity
yeah.
that it kicked in and started taking effect. Because a lot of those
Uh,
symptoms that you were describing are some symptoms that people would experience if they're feeling stressed or anxious or even burnt out. But the
exactly.
fact that you had that underlying condition as well just exacerbated those issues.
It did, yeah. And, most people wait until they get to that point before doing something about it. But I suppose the point, more than yourself, we're trying to get out to people now is, that it will happen if you continue to go down this route. Why not short circuit the process and prevent all that pain and be proactive and almost stop, and change before we ever get to that. I suppose that's the message I'm going to try to get out to people now, to show them that there is a better way to set up their systems, to optimize their day, so they don't end up having to go down that route. And
So when you brought this system together, when you brought the tools of the best people, how do you put that together? Do you have a particular system or program that you want people to follow in order to implement these tools into their day-to-day life?
yeah, so basically what I done originally is like I just started taking little pieces from people out there that do it best, little nuggets here and there that I learned from the trainings, courses, workshops, books. And I just started battle testing them. And what I found was that I was able to actually optimize my system. Um, and when I seen the results that was happening for me, I basically started helping friends and family. It was kind of very loose. It was what I was using, but it wasn't documented. It wasn't a kind of set specific system. But what I was using worked, and I seen it worked, and people started asking me like what I was doing, how was I doing it. So I started reaching out, helping friends and family, and like people, work colleagues, and that kind of stuff. And I seen that they started to get results as well. So I started actually documenting how I was doing it. So, and again, this has evolved as well. Originally, I put together like a digital program. The program is called Elite Productivity, and it's basically based on what we call my maximum performance planning system. and my 4-hour productivity formula. So, like I've a system that we go through with people as part of the elite productivity program, and that was all documented and battle tested through our digital programs. I ran 2 years of free master classes, literally bringing people through this stuff, getting people results, seeing how it works for people, getting people's feedback, re-optimizing once again, and actually just battle testing that time and time again with people. So what I have now is I have a coaching program, because that's ultimately what gets people the best results. So I took my lead productivity program and I developed my framework based around my 10x performance planning system, and I implement that now with my coaching clients, and like this is where we really start to see people getting results, because digital programs, books, YouTube, they're all good, but they ultimately don't lead to huge results for people. And the reason because of that is because, number one, most people that buy a program or a do-it-yourself program or a book or watch a YouTube video, most people never start. And out of the people that start, most never finish. And out of the people that finish, most never sustain it or implement it long term. And the reason for that is, people need guidance, they need accountability, they need support, and they need somebody to be there for them when they hit a roadblock, when they hit an obstacle, when they have a question, and to make it specific for their role. So if you read a generic book or take a generic program, it's one size fits all, but that's not life, and that's not reality. But by having somebody there coaching you through it and walking with you step by step as you implement it, that's where we really start to get results, and that's what I'm passionate about now. It's what I do now all the time. It's just coaching people through this stuff, literally holding their hand as we walk through it, and seeing the results that people get. People from all walks of life that have had similar issues, that have various different goals. Some people want to grow their businesses. Some people that we have in just want to get more free time at home with the kids. I've this one client at the moment, and like what she said to me was so powerful. She said she runs a really successful marketing company in Germany, and she said, I don't want to be looking back in 20 years time with money in the bank and no one to share it with. And like that hit me like to the bone. Like that is that's the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do now, is because people ultimately find out too late that they've missed the best years of their kids' lives, that they've drifted through life, that they've cost themselves so much along the journey getting to where they want to be, or maybe not even ever reaching that goal because of the way they worked, not realizing that there's a better way, and just by getting some help along the way, they could shortcut that process and live the life they want, have that balance, but live the life they want and hit their goals and hit their targets in the meantime.
Yeah, you definitely hit a stronger chord there, where it's all about work-life balance. And a
Yeah,
lot of people are looking for that balance. And
that's the key word.
where they're
Yeah,
struggling, it's to do with time management, be it with their personal life and with their career. And it's trying to strike that balance. It's
yeah,
not always going to be 50-50, because it depends where your core beliefs are aligned. Do you want to focus more on work on any given day, rather,
yeah.
and then maybe focus more on family then on another day?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, people have this kind of view about work-life balance. It has to be perfect 50-50 every day, but it doesn't. You could go heavy and hard one particular day and roll back another day. That's the same thing. You could go heavy and hard one week and then totally roll back another week, depending on what you need to do. Because yeah, we have to be realistic as well. We have goals, we have targets, but just what you're saying, it's having that overall balance. It's not looking at today, tomorrow. It's the overall balance over a period of weeks, months, and ultimately years as well.
So how does you said the MP4H, how does that system differ from the likes of Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week?
So yeah. Yeah. Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week is a kind of it's a great book, by the way. I got pulled some great nuggets from that as well. His is a kind of work anywhere, you know, do anything kind of model where you can almost set up your business on autopilot to almost run itself. That is kind of achievable for people that have their own businesses, but it's like very, very far down the line. Like most of the people I deal with and most people out there right now, they're not at that stage and they won't be for quite some time. That's for the small percentage of people that have businesses up and running, they're successful, they're growing, and all they need to do now is put structures and systems in place to almost outsource an awful lot of their stuff, to delegate, to eliminate, and to go sit on the beach somewhere with a laptop and open it every now and then for a few minutes. But that's not most people. Most people have cases of families. They're communities that they live in and that they want to remain in. It's probably a separate niche to my own. But I've taken great nuggets from the likes of that, and you mentioned that, but what we do is different to the 4 hour work week, but it's different to anything else out there as well. And I know I'm probably biased towards myself and our own program, but what we do is based on leverage and time. Most people out there right now, they're trying to juggle everything they need to do against the number of hours available in the day, and that's time management. But what we do isn't time management, it's time leveraging, where you're focusing on the smallest actions that gives you the larger results. So when you do that, you can actually 50 to 100x your productivity by doing exactly that. So you're working on smallest actions that yields you the largest results. And like that's the difference between spending an hour on your emails or an hour on your most important priority. And what we do is our MP4H formula, productivity formula, it's based on time leveraging principles, some of which we've borrowed or modeled from the likes of Tim Ferriss and the people that do this best out there, Tony Robbins. Elon Musk is kind of very, very controversial character, but the way he works, he has some really, really gold that I've mined. Like it's the same Bill Gates, some of the best minds in the world, plus some of the stuff that I've put together myself and actually seen work in place, optimize and refine and actually battle test. So we've pulled this together as part of our MP4H productivity formula, and we build systems around you then to allow you to, we can all have systems, but it's a bit like what, Mike Tyson said, that everyone has a game plan until they get, punched in the face. And it's the same thing for in your workday. Like you might get punched in the face, but you will get pulled out, you'll get distracted, you get interrupted, you'll get like every time you get interrupted or distracted, it mightn't even be from a person, it could be an email, it could be a notification. Every time that happens to you during your day, you de-optimize your productivity, and it can take up to 24 minutes to even regain where you were with that task to get back into that state of flow again. And so if you had, the systems are one part of it, but we actually build structures around you to allow you to succeed then with this system. What we do is we use our time leveraging systems to, first of all, set up your systems, but also to reduce the time it takes to complete your tasks, to actually create time in your day, to structure your day in such a way as that if there is an unexpected emergency, that you can deal with it. It's not like, oh, I've everything perfectly laid out and all of a sudden there's this emergency and my day and my week gets thrown to bits. We give people all the tools they need to deal with everything that could potentially happen during the day, and we make it specific to them. Look, another thing we go very heavy on initially is mindset. The big thing we always talk about in elite productivity is that action taker mindset. And the example I give is the squirrel. So the squirrel mindset is like, the squirrel, the squirrel brain, he looks at the pole, he's up the pole, he's across the wire, and he doesn't think it. He doesn't overthink it. He doesn't, if the squirrel had the human brain, he'd be looking down, he'd be wondering how high the pole was. Every step would be thought out, overthought about, and he actually ended up wouldn't climbing the pole at all, never mind getting across the wire. He'd actually probably fall in the process. But the squirrel mindset means you just take action. You don't overthink it. You don't procrastinate. You don't make it perfect. You don't wait for the perfect moment. Like, some people, when it comes to exercise, the day has to be perfect. The time has to be perfect. If it's too windy, it's not right. If my running shoes have to be just right, oh, I'll just fix my socks first. And it ends up never happening. And it's the same at work. Like, I was talking to this one client recently, and like, she has put off for 3 months, she told me, just 2 nights ago, when I was talking to her on a coaching call, this one particular task, and it's cost her 15,000. Like, this one thing that she put off, and like, it's a simple thing. It'd probably take an hour to do, but she procrastinated it. But I suppose what we try to do with people is instill that action taker mindset, that squirrel mindset, where you're not overthinking it. You're just doing. You're just taking action, because ultimately, you could be handed the best tools in the world. You could be handed everything on the plate, the best systems. But if you don't have that action taker mindset, you will never work on what you need to do. So, what we do is, with the systems that we set up for people, you know, you capture everything that you're working on during the day, during your weeks, during your months. You capture everything. We call it your second brain. So most people, they carry around with them like great big bags on their back, all that they need to do every day, and they carry it home with them. They carry it into the weekends. They go to sleep with it, and it's like a weight. They can't switch off in the evenings. They're overwhelmed thinking about everything they need to do. They're waking up, and that's what I used to be like. I used to wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something that I needed to do the next day and hoping I wouldn't forget it. But our systems actually allows what we call the second brain. It's a plan and capture system that we give people that allows them to slot in everything that they need to do into that. And at a glance, they can see what the priorities are, what they need to work on right now, tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, and just eliminates all that mental baggage from people's minds. The other thing that we do, I suppose, that's different, very different to everybody else, is that, and it's something that really kind of bugged me, working in kind of in companies, is that, the shiny object syndrome, where everybody's excited, everybody's motivated about introducing this new thing, and a couple of months later, 6 months later, nobody's talking about it. It's fallen apart. They've moved on to the next shiny object. But the last module I actually bring people through is called Sustain the Gains. And it's where we give the people the tools to actually build rock solid habits within themselves and routines to enable them to sustain the gains they get from this program into the coming weeks, months, and years for the rest of their life. So it isn't just something that falls apart in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. They actually sustain, and they get huge, huge results from this program, but they actually sustain it. And that's what really bugs me about, I suppose, other programs and other things out there, is that, there's no follow through. There is no, long-term results. There's results for a short period of time, but people kind of, default back to their set point. What we do is we build systems right through, including the last module, to enable them to actually sustain what they're doing going forward, and into the future as well. And I suppose that's, kind of high level what we do, and how we're different as well from maybe other stuff you'll see out there.
Yeah, I love that. I think what you're kind of referring to is kind of the likes of the 12-week fitness programs, where they kind of have the modules and they get you through the 12 weeks, and they just want your testimonial after 12 weeks and see the
Yeah,
results. And then they don't
yeah,
care about
before and
you. It's like
after.
you can gain 20 pounds, 30 pounds after
Yeah.
after that 12-week challenge. They don't care.
And that's exactly what happens when you see people, even people that have lost a lot of weight. The reason they rebound back is, number one, their mindset never shifted to the type of person that they wanted to be. And that's why we build that mindset at the start. And number two is, what they were doing maybe wasn't sustainable in the first place, and they had no tools to sustain it. So they spring back to, almost their set point or their default. So yeah, that's exactly the case.
One thing you mentioned there was time leverage. And just for people who don't understand the difference between time management and time leverage, in a nutshell, what is the difference between managing your time and leveraging it?
So really, the core difference is, with time management, you're trying to do everything with time management within the realms of the number of hours available to you. You're trying to juggle everything. You're trying to keep everybody happy. You're trying to do it within a window of 24 hours. That's unrealistic, obviously, but within the window of the day. But with time leverage, we don't get people to do everything. We get people to do what matters. And that's the difference. The most successful out there, like, this is one of the big things I've taken from the top performers in the world today. They don't do everything, they do what matters. And that's what leveraging your time is all about. It's not about doing everything, it's actually about doing matters. And one of the fundamental elements of leveraging time is, the preacher principle. Like, there's 20% of your there's 20% of your tasks that give you 80% of your results. So we get people working on the 20% that'll give them the 80% of their results, and we get them to spend 80% of their time on that 20%. They still have 20% of the time to do, the other stuff, but by just focusing on that 20% that gives them the 80% of the results, like, often cases, even if they don't get that other stuff done, the other stuff will become either insignificant or will not matter in the long run, because you got that important stuff done. And most people, they're in they're working on the tasks that are urgent, but they're not necessarily working on the things that are important. So they're busy, but they're not productive, and there's a massive difference. Most of us, we're busy, and we're effective. A lot of people, are out there and they're successful because they're effective and they're busy. But are they actually productive? No, most people aren't. Like, I came across a stat, like, recently from the US Department of Labor. Like, the average person is productive 31% of the time. And that's because they're not focusing on the 20% that'll give them the 80% of the results. And they're not spending most of their time on that stuff. They're spending most of their time on the urgent. And the urgent could be important, or the urgent might not be important. And the reason sometimes the important stuff becomes urgent is because you haven't got to it soon enough. And all of a sudden we're fighting a deadline, or there's a major issue with a client, because stuff is actually urgent at that point. But we get people is working on the important and non-urgent and spending most of their time on that. And when you work on the important and the non-urgent, when stuff doesn't become urgent, your work is better, you're more focused, there's a higher quality of work, and actually you end up getting your most important work done, because it's not spilling over when there's a major fire or an emergency or whatever it is during your day. You don't have to put off that one crucial task that you need to do today. You can actually reschedule it to another time because you've worked on it before it became urgent. It's the same with the urgent tasks that are not important. Those tasks, like, people are working on all the time, they're like other people's priorities. Like, and somebody sends you an email, like, we're doing a favor for somebody, and all that stuff is fine if you are getting your most important work done first. And that's the key, leveraging your time so you're spending most of your time on the actual stuff that matters.
Yeah, I think one example that I'm just trying to think of different examples, let's say practical examples of time management versus time leverage. And one that comes to mind when it comes to time management, it's all about to-do lists and
That's a big one, yeah.
scheduling to-do lists and trying to just tick all the boxes before the end of the day. And it's an easy way to be busy all day, but it might not be the most productive way of spending your time. For example, maybe you're running a business and you're trying to generate more leads, generate more clients, and you're like, okay, I'm going to reach out to 2,000 people today. Doesn't matter where I get them, I'll scrape lists offline and just send out
Yeah.
this copy and paste email to them. Rather than if you were to leverage your time and be like, okay, what can I do right now, which is a 20% that can leverage 80% of the results. And it may be sitting down and writing a more personalized copy to send out to a very specific niche of people who are probably interested in your product, and being very personal with that email, and maybe personalizing it and actually taking the time to research where they hang out and sending out a very personal email to those people. You might only send out an email to 20 people, 50 people, but I'm pretty sure the return on, or the response rate from those 20 or 50 people could be a lot higher than the 2,000 copy and paste. And the quality of the relationship that you've just started or nurtured with those 20 to 50 people is probably a lot higher than the 2,000 people that you just copy and pasted to.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll give you another example from the Tim Ferriss's book there, The 4 Hour Workweek. Like when he actually looked at the revenue streams from his clients, just like that Pareto principle, he seen that there was 20% of his clients that was bringing him 80% of the results. And actually the clients that weren't in that 20% cost him the most time, the most money, the most headaches, the most problems. So he actually ended up firing a lot of those clients. And like that's how he, I suppose, ultimately got to that 4 work week where he was still getting 80% of the profit with a fraction of the work because of just implementing that one simple concept. Like not all tasks are created equal. And when people have to-do lists, you know, they're looking at everything they need to do, and they won't get to it all in the day. And what happens when they don't get to it is they're carrying around that mental baggage with them in the evening at home. And when they come in the next morning, they still see the same list there from the day before. But like, you know, it's almost like emails. It's almost like the waves of the ocean. They will, to-dos, tasks, they will keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. You will never get to the bottom of it. You'll never get to the bottom of your emails. You'll never get to the bottom of everything you need to do. And that's why, in order for you to be properly productive and successful, you have to work on actually what matters. Work on your priorities. And if you don't get to the other stuff, then so be it.
I think someone asked Tim Ferriss how many hours does he work per week, and I think he still said something like 80 or 100 hours a week. But because he enjoys the work he's doing, it doesn't feel like work, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
about, even though he's cut back, let's say, on 80% of the activities that only bring in 20% of the results, he's focusing more time on that 20% rather than just working 4 hours a week on that 20%.
yeah,
He's more passionate and more aligned with that 20% that brings the 80% results.
yeah,
So instead of spending less time on the more productive things, he actually enjoys spending more time on that
yeah,
20%,
yeah,
and he's exponentially more productive as a result. So I think that's another
absolutely.
aspect of it, that it's not always about working less is more, but it's about working more on the things that align more with you. It's when you work on
Exactly.
things that don't align with your core values and things that drain you, that they don't interest you, and have very little results and poor outcomes. I think
Yeah,
it's when you put so much energy into input and see less outcomes that kills your job satisfaction as well. And that's what gets you stressed, that gets you burnt out, it makes you feel unproductive, makes you feel inadequate and incompetent.
yeah,
But when you're putting all your energy into activities that align with your core values and that fuel your passion, and it maybe helps you engage more with your colleagues, engage more with your clients, that um, it's easier to maintain that workload, if that makes sense.
yeah, you're 100% right. And like everyone's different. You know, there's no one size fits all. Like for some of my clients, they're business owners and they've big targets and big goals that they want to achieve within their business. For others, it's that they want that level of success, but they want to do it without impacting their family or their health. And whatever it is for you, that's fine. But absolutely, your sense of satisfaction is so much greater when you can actually work with, as you say, aligned with your values, and you're you're actually being pulled towards somewhere that you want to go. Because most people, they kind of drift along and they bob along and they go from day to day and week to week to month, and all of a sudden in a year, 5 years, 10 years, they end up in a place where they don't want to be. And one of the things that we do people when we bring them in is we bring them through a number of clarity exercises to understand exactly where they are right now and where they actually want to be. Where do they want to end up? And what we use then is we put in specific systems in place to help them, which helps pull them towards those goals. So they're not trying to motivate themselves. They're not trying to, they don't give up on the bad days. We put things in place to actually help them pull them towards what they want. So they have a vision, and that vision is constantly pulling them there. So on the bad days, when they hit an obstacle, when they hit a roadblock, when they're feeling like they've given up, they look at that vision and they say, "This is why I'm doing it," and that pulls them through it, and it gives them that sense of purpose and that sense of job satisfaction that they can say, "I am making a difference there, whatever it is. I am making a difference, and I'm aligned with those core values that you talked about, and that purpose that's kind of driving within me."
Yeah, yeah. Barry, if anyone is interested more in finding out about the MP4H and more about what you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
So you can get me on Instagram, on Facebook, you'll get me on www.domorebetter.ie. And if you want to find out about more what we do inside Leap Productivity, you go to domorebetter.ie. I have some free resources there. I have a free video that will actually talk you through it, talk you through the process, show you exactly what we do inside our program, how our MP4H productivity formula is getting people results right now. And they're the three main channels that you'll find me on at the moment.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, could you take a moment to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify? Because it really helps to improve the rating of the show, so that it's more easily found by others who might enjoy the show just as much as you. And maybe take a moment to share with family, friends, or a loved one. Because what better way to help break the stigma around mental health than to have that conversation with those closest to us? As always, reach out to me at giveyourselfsomeleeway.com, on social media, eugene.leeway, or shoot me an email, eugene@leeway.ie, because even though Give Yourself Some Leeway is like an outlet for me, I also want to give the highest value to you, my listeners. So I really depend on your feedback. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to hear more about. So until I hear from you, take care of yourself. Maybe have a glass of water, crack a smile, and think of a way to prioritize your own self-care. So until next time, take care.